Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thanks. So yesterday, I think we had a fun session, and thanks everyone for the active participation. I think yesterday went very well. So today is a different tone. Today is mostly going to be more discussion and interaction as we, talk about the exercise and the projects that you have to that we have to complete during the week. So, and that's the format. There's an interesting quiz that we have that is just going to help with the active participation during today. But before I go further, did we all get the video? I tried a couple of ways to share the video. I think the first two attempts, I got email that a lot of people were not able to access the video. So I had to upload it to our YouTube channel and resend it. So did anybody get the course material and also the video, or is anybody still having issue with the videos?
I had sent an email so that I can get the notes, but I did get them already, and having the video on YouTube would be the best way because I couldn't access the video before that.
Okay,
So now I should be able to access it.
good. Yeah, I sent it just a short while ago to the like a YouTube link, so you should be able to all access it now. So that's what we're going to be using forward. Some of the other means have too much um, request for you to get. We don't want people to be paying money for stuff that if we can get it for free, right? So we'll try to keep it at that um, at this point. So I think we can go ahead and I'm going to share. We would complete the lectures from yesterday. I think we have just one more section for Vishal to cover. Then afterwards, we're going to look at the exercise. So if you receive the Colab file that I sent, you'll see some exercise at the end of that and also a project. So once Vishal goes through the last topic for today, then we'll go through the exercise together and we'll also interact on the projects. And I assume today is going to be quite informal, which is how we designed it. The Sunday is mostly for interaction and maybe questions, answers, and on related topics. Okay, so let me go ahead and share this, Vishal. So Vishal, do you want me to give you control?
Yes, please, Michael. I cannot request control at my end, so I don't know.
Let me share.
Yeah.
Let me see. Microsoft Team is a little interesting, so I need to. How about I just let you? I'll stop sharing and you can share. Then afterwards,
Yeah,
I can share again. I think without me.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think that'll save us some time.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let
So I'll
me
stop
quick
sharing.
share some stuff here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So, yeah, Sunday is fun day, so we'll make it hopefully fun for you. But we had some, one bit of uh, Pythonic object that I wanted to make sure that you guys are all aware of before we go into the exercise and discussions and questions from your side. So remember, yesterday we started off from real basic and we really touched down upon the different data types. Oh yeah, sorry. I will zoom in. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yep. So yeah, so we did talk about yeah, sure, definitely. Thanks. Um, so we talked about like right from the basics about the three distinct data types, the numbers, which are the integers and the floating points. We had the strings, and we took some questions, and we saw how strings could be defined using the quotation the quotation marks, the single quote or the double quote, and it can be numeric, alphanumeric, but it is alphanumeric in design. But we also have the Boolean data type, We went ahead, we did some basic, Python functions. We saw the math, package, and how we could use some of the mathematical operations using the math package. And we will, as we go through the week, we will go into pretty sophisticated packages, and you would see, like, Python has some of these libraries and packages which are very, very, very useful. Including, we will have. Uh, you know, uh, Modules or course lecture on visualization as well, and you will see, like, there are packages like matplotlib. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about it, but it's going to help you with visualization. But fundamentally, it is similar as what we had with the math package, right? So, and then we did have the if and the if else statements. We have seen how we define the syntax for that. We also looked at the for loop to do the loops in Python and the format for that. And then we started introducing some Pythonic objects as well, right? So we had couple that we discussed yesterday. One was the list, right? So it was something that you define with a square bracket, and then you can access the contents inside the list. The list can have numbers, alphanumerics or strings, and also nested list, right? So you can have a list inside the list. A very, very useful thing, especially when you use for loops and are, going through a huge sequence of numbers and trying to output something. You can always use lists for that. We also had uh, yeah, the screen is frozen because I'm not doing anything on the screen. I'm just talking and trying to, you know, get myself oriented with what I discussed, and also hopefully in the process also remind you guys, what we discussed. Um, but yeah, so we had the list. Then we did the dictionaries, which is another very, very interesting and useful Pythonic object that you would see, especially in the later stages when we do pandas, which is a Python package that helps us do a lot of these statistical analysis. You would see they have a default pandas object called data frame. So that is essentially, in the background, it's a dictionary. So dictionary is something essentially which helps you define in a key and its corresponding value kind of a format. So different from how you define a list. In this case, you're using curly braces, like curly brackets, to define the dictionary. So the last bit of the Pythonic object that I wanted to, introduce you guys to is something called tuples, right? So now I hope my screen, you can see it moving a little bit, but I just have to cover this particular part. So yeah, so the last most popular data type is the tuple. The difference between list and tuples is that a tuple is again a collection of different objects. You can have different objects inside a tuple. You define it by a first bracket, like the normal brackets that we have. And the most important thing that you have to remember is that a tuple is immutable. And what I mean by that statement is that you cannot change an element inside a tuple once it is defined, right? So, and let's look at how the tuples are defined. So this is an example. So you can see the variable name I'm using as tup1, and I have four numbers defined inside the tuple. And remember, yesterday we covered this. How do we know the type of variable? Um, we use the type function, right? Um, so there's a question that strings are also immutable, right? So strings are not something which is a Pythonic data type, right? So what I'm trying to draw a comparison here is between list, dictionary, and the tuple. So these are all Pythonic objects, right? So remember, in a list, you can access the content of a list by its index. So let's say you have a list, you want to get the first index, the object from that list. You can get that, and you can change it. So list is something that is mutable in that way. So you can change the contents inside the list. But in tuple, what is unique is that once it is defined, it's not it cannot be changed. That's how it is different. So again, so tuple is something, and let me actually also define a list just to show you the difference, right? So we have a list, let's say list test, oh sorry, list underscore test. So there's a question, could you put a list in a tuple? Well, I would rather answer this question with another question. Why would you do that? Is the main question around this, right? So whenever you're defining a tuple, tuples are mostly used for indexing, right? So I see somebody. I'm seeing a blacked out screen with just initials in a circle. That's interesting. Can you guys see my screen? This is probably a test that I should have.
Yes.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, all right. Maybe this is a specific problem with you, Lynn. All
Yeah,
right, so
log out and log in again and see if you work better.
yep, yeah, exactly. So no, thank you for confirming that you guys can see the screen. So let's define a list with the same numbers, right? With the same 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you could say that, well, I could, if I'm given a choice, I can define it as a list or I can define it as a tuple, right? So both of them have the same definition. Now the thing which makes them different uh, is the property where you can mute it, whether it's mutable or not. So let's use a print statement and let's try to print out the first value of the tuple, right? So, and remember, we could make the print statement much more, informative by saying this is the first element of my tuple, right? So that's tup1, and in the square brackets you say 0. That's the first element, right? We could do the same thing for our list as well. So list underscore test, right? So for my list rather, and here I would say instead of the tuple I'd say list underscore test, right? So, and you would see that in both the cases I'll get the same number, right? But the problem happens when you're trying to change it, right? So here what I do is I'll access that number and I'd like to change it into, let's say 10, right? I want to change this first number into 10. So for whatever reason, right, based on the problem that you're dealing with. And what happens is that it gives you an error and it tells you that tuple object does not support item assignment. But in the same way, you could have, I mean, if your problem demands that you should change the first index to 10, so you could do that in a list, right? So I would say list underscore test, the same kind of a thing, and I'll say this is equal to 10, and it doesn't give me an error. And in fact, if you look into your list now, let me have another code cell which says list underscore test, and you would see that now it has changed the number to 10. So that's the property of the tuple versus the list, right? So yeah, I just wanted to cover that. Make sure you guys are aware of this. If you have defined any variable which is with the first bracket, something like this, that defines as a tuple, so if you cannot reassign values to that, then now it's because it's the immutable property of the variable type. Yep. So yeah, so I wanted to cover this, and Michael, it's back to you if we have any
Please,
questions related to
please,
tuple.
I have
Yes.
a question. I wasn't really following you. Is it possible for you to go a tuple reassignment again? Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So essentially, a tuple is something that you define with the first bracket, right? So let me actually start over one more time, just to make it a little bit more clear to you guys. So a tuple we define like with a variable name. So let's say I say tuple test. That's my variable name, and you define it with a first brackets, right? So the normal brackets, and I put in different numbers to this, right? So that is how you define a tuple. So that was the first part that I talked about. The second important thing that you need to remember is that tuples are immutable. So which essentially means that you cannot change once it's defined. Once a tuple is defined, you cannot change what's inside it, right? So, and I was trying to show that. So remember, similar to a list, we can access any particular object inside a tuple by its index number. So tuple test 0 would give me the first number, tuple test 2 would give me the third number, right? Inside this. Now, the problem is, or not the problem, or the property of tuple is that you cannot change it. So let me try to demonstrate it through the code, right? So you say tuple test 2, which is the third element of this tuple, and I want to change it from 12 to 0, let's say. So when you try to do that, it will say that, the tuple object doesn't support item assignment. So if you have a problem where you need to change, you need to assign something else, and you want to change the contents of a particular variable, it's probably better to not use a tuple. Is the message I would like to give you guys. Hopefully that was a little bit more clear than before.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Are there other questions on what was covered yesterday from the group? Thank you, Vishal.
Yep,
So
sure.
if there are no questions, I think what we will plan to do is to go over the exercises in your, I think you guys already have the notebook. I will go over the exercises, then I would also pop a Menti quiz that we can all do. It's mostly fun. It's just, just to test, everybody's grasp of the concept that was shared yesterday. So that when you go into, then Vishal would just give an overview of the projects that you have to complete before next week's this presentation or next week's this class. Okay. So let me share once again. Are there questions popping up? I can't read a lot of the things that are.
Yep. So I think there is a question about why you would use tuple instead of a list. So, I mean, tuples are essentially, yeah, it's hard to find out a reason of using list versus tuple. The only main reason of having tuple is that if you want to have a variable that you know for sure is not going to change throughout your, throughout the entire course of your code, right? So and you will realize this as you do, like, big uh, big lines of codes, and like a big code with like hundreds of lines. So there are certain things which you would not like to change. For example, let's say you might define a tuple with the names of particular like people in your company, let's say, and those people would not change, or not, or something that would be fixed in a in a shorter range of time. So then you can define it as a tuple, and tuples can be used as keys in the dictionary. So that way it's another use of it. There is a debate, and I'm not at the right position to answer this, but you guys can try to Google for it. There is a slight compute advantage. So if you're writing big lines of code with a lot of for loops and going through iterations of thousands and millions of numbers, then tuples tend to be a slightly tad bit faster than lists. So yeah, that's some of the advantages. We have some other questions coming in. Let me try to read them.
There was a question about question 8. It's a typo, so I've written the correct word. It's supposed to be 50 times 2 brackets. Initially, I had 502, and that's a typo.
Right. And there is another question about the curly braces, the parentheses, and the square braces. So they are very, very specific. So curly braces, so the normal, the parentheses, they are used for tuple, for defining a tuple. For the curly braces are used for defining a dictionary, and the square braces are used for defining a list. So that is how you define the type of Pythonic object that you are trying to use. Right.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to read quickly through the exercise, or rather the questions. Would you use a tuple when you have fixed set of values that you want to reference? Say, for example, states of US will be a tuple. That's a great example. Yep, I would use that.
Yep.
All right. I think I've covered most of the questions, and keep them coming, and feel free to come off mute, use the raise hand feature, because this is going to be interaction, right, Michael? We would
Yes, this is mostly
encourage people.
interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the discussion on project 2 would come later, which I would walk you through then briefly. But it's mostly for you guys to walk it, spend some time on it, and that would help you grab some of the concept as you walk through it. So, but we'll cover a hint of that later. So let me share. We can talk about the questions. Some of you said they didn't get the questions, so with Silva has sent that out to you, so you would get it shortly. So this is mostly interactive. Once again, is just to gauge understanding of some of the concepts we've been discussing yesterday and even today. So I would put the question in here. We'll look at a few questions, and I'll switch to the Menti survey. So once again, I'm looking forward to your response on the screen for the first one. I think we did that already, which is a floating point. I think everybody got that correctly. Is there anybody that have issue with like the first question on what floating points are? Yeah, so you're correct. So that was a trick one. So somebody asked if 69.1 in brackets is a string, and the answer is correct. And you can actually go to the we can test that actually. So let's see. So type 9.1. So let's see what this is. Yeah, so it's a string. So you can actually use this type command to test some of this easily. Yep, thank you. I see somebody already put that in the chat. Thanks for that. So you can test a lot of this if you're not sure. What of the number 3? So I think we all understand that everybody's getting it correctly here. So I think the basic difference between the floating point and the integer is that the integer is a number without decimal points, right? While the floating point is a number which has a decimal. So 12.0, for example, would be what? So what do you think 12.0 will be? So that would be a floating point. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears here, to make it more interactive and fun. Some of the other questions, I put in a Menti survey. I love this survey because it really helps. So I will let you guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, go to this Menti survey and put in the code.
Fancy player icons there.
Now I'm hungry with the offer.
We have 21 people. Let's see if anybody else is going to join before we start.
So while we are waiting for people to join in, I'm actually pasting a link to a post in Medium. So I don't know if you guys know about this platform, and I'm not trying to promote anybody here, but Medium is a good blog posting website where a lot of people write about their own, like, interpretation of, let's say if there's a new machine learning algorithm, if there's a new data science stuff going on, they write about it. So there is a post about tuples and what you should know, 10 things that you should know about tuples in Python. So if you guys are interested, give it a read. I think it's a pretty short but a very sweet post that covers it all. And in general, like, Medium is a good place to search for different things that you might be curious about in Python. Then the other point that I wanted to mention was, so we had 12.0 as floating point, right? So a bit of an advanced concept for people. I know we have few people who are advanced and intermediate. So there are two types of floating points as well. So it's more based on how the
Are we
computer.
ready?
Oh, sorry, Michael. I was trying to speak and was giving them some uh, tips. Can you hear me, Michael? Can anybody hear me? Or was I talking to myself?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I think, yeah, Michael is probably muted. So yeah, go ahead with the quiz. I'll talk later. Michael, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
So we're going to go to the second question now.
Guys, we are allowing the use of the Collab notebook, so you can always type in and see what the output is.
So ready for question 3?
Sir, can we have some guidance on technology?
Can you be a little bit more specific on your question?
Can we have some guidance on technology? So what should we choose for our career?
Oh, that's something that will probably be discussed later. Let's concentrate on the quiz. Should we? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So this one should be very easy, right, for everybody. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, Michael.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Sorry, this thing kind of reduced my volume, so I couldn't hear everyone. So how was it? Was it fun? So it looks like some of the questions, a couple of people missed them. So if you missed any of the question, let me know which part that you didn't get very well. And congratulations to Sheridan. I think you had the highest score. So you have your bag of gift here. I don't know what this is, but something that looks like a gift. So
Man, this was close. I'm really happy to see that, most people got most of the answers. So,
yes,
yeah, kudos to you guys. I think we could deliver some message there.
exactly. So I think people are following it. So that's actually very good. It's a very close race. Look at that. Look at that. This is really close. I think it's even closer than the current election.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so Vishal, maybe I want to look at the questions to see the ones that maybe a few people got wrong. Then we can talk about, why maybe if they had any question, or maybe the question wasn't just clear. So I think we have 3 people that use this. If you go to the, I got a little kids here. So you can actually test any of these questions. So I'll just see if I can divide my screen here. Okay. Okay. So some of this you can easily actually do a test. A lot of people got this, but a few people had this. So you can quickly just maybe print it and see. I think that will give you the, a very high number, right? It's 8 to the power of 8. So that's wrong. I think most people got it correctly. You could do this and run it, and this is your 64. Nobody did this one at least, and 3 people also use this. Visha, is this does even Python recognize this symbol?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Let's
We
test
can
it.
try. Yeah, yeah.
I've never used it.
Be surprised sometimes. Oh,
0.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what that symbol is doing. Maybe we
Yeah.
can Google it, right?
Let's Google it. Yeah, that's true. Let's Google it.
That means to the
Yeah.
power of.
No, actually not. I don't think
It's
so.
just it's no, it is. It's just not Python.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. So in Python,
Right.
it has a different meaning, I think.
Okay, let's see what it says. Okay, and Python. Let's see. Did he pick it up? I'm not sure. I've just not used it. So, Visha, if you have a
So
better, so what it
yeah,
is.
I do, and I'm going to copy paste the answer that I got. So this is essentially a bitwise uh, XOR. So it's it's basically a bitwise operator. So we haven't covered this. It is it's something that goes into the binary notation of how computer science, the low level languages, like it's doing uh, XOR operator. So let's just say that it's not something that we covered in the
Well,
yeah, in the
okay.
class. Yeah. So the takeaway message is this is in general it might be the to the power operator in most of the other languages, but not in Python.
That's in
The
Python.
Python operator is double asterisk to have the uh, power. Yep.
Yep. Thank you, Visha. Then This one, we still have a few people that, I think Vishal, you covered this yesterday. Well, we still have about 6 people that didn't get it correctly. So I don't know if you want to touch on this.
Yeah, so essentially, remember the percentage sign is the modulo operator. So you might, you know, take it as a division operator. I think that was possibly the confusion that led the 6 people to choose 12. So yeah, maybe it was something that you guys, overlooked. But remember, the percentage operator is actually something that gives you the remainder after the division, and not actually the result of the division itself, right? And again, Michael is showing you it in the notebook. I think that's the best way to find the answers for these.
So it's telling you the remainder of the division. So it's 24 divided by 2. Just remainder is 0. So that's what this modular operator is asking. Then maybe if we just use the regular division sign, how would that look? Okay, so that's where some people got it wrong, right? This thing is just, so to keep in mind some of these little details here, they are very important. So I think this is clear with everybody now, those that got it wrong. So then let's see what else we have. Okay. So we have just 2 people that didn't get this correctly. So what we do, you can use the modular operator and divide by 2. You can divide any of this number by 2 to test if it's even number. And essentially, if there's no remainder, that tells you that the number is even. This one, so that's not it. Then you can test the other one. 8, 5, 6, 2. Yeah, then the last one. Yeah. So this is your correct answer. So I think this is clear for those people that missed it. Maybe it's just because of the time, because we were under time crunch, right? So everybody was rushing to get it. So Vishal covered this even today. We talked about dictionary. So this is a dictionary. I think everybody got it correctly. Hooray! I like this one. Okay. So yeah, so we should do this. This is part of the project exercise, but I think given that a few people did not get to the answer, maybe we should do it again. But I think we have a lot of good answers as well. So let's just quickly cover these in just one line of code here. So I can define the variable x. Oh, sorry. So x equal to what is it, 33? You can easily just print x squared, right, plus 10 x minus 23. So that's how we got to the answer. So does anybody have issue? Can anybody speak to this and see where they struggle with this, or if it's clear by everybody?
For that problem, I just posted my code and I got 1386 instead of 1396.
1386. can you check to make sure you have this?
No. So I'm just posting my code here. I use the power off function. So I'm surprised we are getting two different answers.
Let me see. Let me check the chat window. Should that be a power, Michelle? What do you think?
Yep, that's correct. Let me actually double check that really quickly.
Oh, okay. I see where the issue is. Your last number is minus 23, not 33. So you were
Yep.
correct.
Oh,
The
okay.
power is
Gotcha.
working, but that was just working.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay. So that was close though. So I'll give you half point for that one.
But I think that is actually that's great because we didn't cover this power POW function. So I'm happy to see that you guys are discovering things on your own, which is what our one of our motivation was. So yes, the POW function is actually giving you the power. So x to the power y, you can do that using what is there in this particular code. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that to everybody.
Yeah, that was good. Thanks for that. So Vishal, I think maybe maybe if you can spend a few minutes and go over the rest of the projects.
Yep,
Uh,
I actually wanted to touch upon couple of other things as well, so that people understand. So maybe I'll let you drive because we can do that together. So if you bring the Google Colab notebook, I want to
okay.
show a couple of things which you would possibly appreciate. So if you remember, there is a question. I'm looking at the chat window. There is a question about the double forward slash operator. We also had this to the power, normal to the power operator. So we tried Google. I mean, sometimes Google is good, but you can also use the help function inside Python itself. So Python has its own help. So if you insert a new code cell in the Google Colab notebook, and if you type in help, so yes, Michael, yeah,
Okay.
help, and within brackets, if you put in the operator with a single quote mark. So let's say we are looking at the power operator, that particular sign of no, not that one, but yeah, we can also do this. But I was thinking about, yeah, so let's try this first maybe. So yeah, so let's see what it gives us. So it tells you what the operator does, and what are the requirements of using the POW operator. So now let's try another one. Let's try that that symbol we had in the Menti question, right? 8 to the power 8.
Okay.
Remember, so we had that tiny little symbol for which you didn't get
Okay.
any result. So let's try that symbol and put it inside single quotation mark.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect. So if you run this cell, so it'll give you the list of all the operators that's in there. So if you scroll a little bit up, Michael, if you don't mind, on that cell, yeah. And here you see you have the different operators and what they mean. So lambda means it's an expression. We'll go over lambda and whatnot. We had the if and else, or if you scroll down a little bit more, yes, so you have this particular operator that we searched for. um, so that is a bitwise XOR operator. It's a bitwise operation. We haven't covered that. There's also a question in the chat box about the double slash. So that is something that you also have in here. Yeah, see, so that's actually, so the asterisk is multiplication, @ is for matrix multiplication, The single slash is for division, and the double slash is for floor division. So floor division is essentially it's giving you the nearest absolute like the it's flooring the division. It's not giving you the remainder of it, right? So and we can try it. So if you
Yep.
do a flooring with let's say 12 floor 5, then we can see what the answer is as compared to 12. Yeah, so let's run this. This is 2, so it didn't give you the remainder, right? So it's
Yeah.
and
It's giving
and
you
if
the
you do,
quotients.
yeah, and if you do 12 division 5, you would get 2 point. It's a
Yeah.
floating number. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Right. So hopefully that also covers that part.
Yeah, that's good. And it has the exponents.
Yeah. And also another thing is if you just, so let's say for example again the power function POW. So if you type that function in the cell,
Here.
and if you yeah, not inside help, but like just in a separate line, let's say. Yeah, so just type POW, and if you hover your mouse over that, over yeah, if you select this, yes, and hover your mouse over POW, you should see a help for this. So yeah, so see, so it tells you what it does and whatnot. So this is specific to the IDE that you're using. So some IDEs support this, some do not, but I find this useful application of Google Colab. And I hope you guys also appreciated the fact that we had absolutely no downtime to starting to program. We didn't ask you to install anything. We didn't ask you to, have any software or anything. We are using this amazing thing that Google actually gives us. So yeah, so we could really get started with coding right from, the first minute that we had in the course. So um, I hope that's something that you found useful.
Yeah, this is good. I think the help file is really very, very good. It's a good place to start. Before you go into Google.
Yep. And somebody mentioned, yes, if you're using Linux, yeah, you already have the Python installation. It's much easier. I myself use Linux a lot, and yeah, I think Linux is the programmer's favorite language. I mean, our operating system to work on. Yeah. All right. So now let's go into the exercises, right?
Yep.
So should I share my screen
Yes, you
or?
can share vision.
Okay. Let's try that. Perfect. So, all right. So we covered a part of all of these. So, did any of you guys try, the second question? Evaluate the cosine of pi by 2, and pi by 2 is in radians. And the hint here is import and use the math library. Anybody wants to paste their part of the code in the chat window about evaluating cosine of pi by 2 radians? All right, so we have a code in here. Yes, so let me try to copy this just for others as well, right? Okay. Import math. Yes, that's the first thing that you do. So I've given you the hint. We have given you the hint here. Import and use the math library. So we need to import it first. The second one is to actually evaluate the particular value of pi by 2. So a couple of things here. The one thing is it's there's nothing wrong here. But I would like to give you guys, because you guys are I mean, I hope some of you guys will take on programming full time, uh, right? And it's always good to not use the standard keywords as a variable name. And what I mean by that is essentially, let's say, so remember we had like, keyword like for, right? So we have the for loop, and immediately when you type for it, it turns it into, so some of these IDEs have this nice feature of, highlighting which are the Python keywords, but you could actually say the for equal to 1, right? But that's a strict no, because, you know, when you're using the keywords, you're trying to play around with what is defined. So um, there's nothing wrong with using cos, but I would just put cos underscore result just to make it a little bit um, better. Yeah. And again, this is why we are encouraging you guys to put in your code, because this is how we can address some of these challenges, right? So there's nothing right wrong. Yeah, this is not a test. We are using this as an opportunity to learn things, right? So yeah, so don't be shy about putting your codes in the uh, in in the chat box, right? So math.cos is fine. So I still want to see what is the what is exactly cosine function taking in, whether it's taking it as a radian or whether it's taking it as a degree. So let's use the help and let's see math.cos, right? So cosine of x returns the cosine of x measured in radians, right? So that's why this is a good. So imagine if you had to do a degree, right? So if instead of asking you a cosine of pi by 2, I would have asked the cosine of 90 degrees, then in that case, I think math library has a cos d function, or maybe it doesn't. So it doesn't. So in this case, you would have to, one way to do this is to convert your radians into degrees, right? So you or degrees into radians rather. So but there are ways of inputting the cosine of degree as well. Maybe not in this math package, but in some of the advanced packages like NumPy and stuffs, it would do it. So this is good. So math.cos. Now the other part is math.pi. So again, this is a predefined variable. So you can see here as I hover my mouse, it says math.pi. So yeah, it's we still, mathematicians are still figuring out what's the where to stop with this pi, but I think this is a reasonable enough approximation that it has, right? Pi is an irrational number, and then it's pi by 2, so you get the cosine of result, right? So then I see there is a comment round due to extremely small floating point. So a very good, possibly thing to discuss as well. So let's first see what cosine of result has for us. So yeah, so we see that this is a very, very small number. So anybody knows what this notation means? You can come off mute if you want to.
Exponential notation.
That is, yes, that is right. So it is this showing you um, that this is 10 raised to power minus 17, right? Or 6 raised to power 6 multiplied by, this is a very, very small number, right? So it's an exponential notation, exactly. And why it gives it is because math.pi is, absolute value of math.pi is not in here, right? So then what this particular code, which was given to me, which I copy pasted, is what it did was it used the round function, right? So rounded the cosine result, right? So that's in here. I'll change this into cosine result, and it rounded it up to 2 decimals. So let's see what the answer is. It's 0.0, right? That's what we expected it to be. Oh, sorry. Vishal, I think we can't see your screen. Yep. So I guess people are still seeing my screen. Can somebody confirm that you guys can see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So yeah, maybe this is a specific problem to this person. So yeah, but good job. This, I really like this last line in here. This is important. Use of another function, the rounding up function, that actually gives you the result that we were looking for.
Can you change the round it to 5 and round it to 5, Vishal? Let's see what the result will be.
I have a question, please.
Yep. Go for it.
Yeah. So do you need to use math.pi, because without doing that directly math.cos and pi by 2, I could get the answer?
Yep. Good question. So let's see. So we have, so you're saying that instead of using math.cos, you're using just cos, right?
No, I use math.cos and in parentheses pi by 2. I did not again use math.pi.
So for me, it says pi is not defined. So maybe you defined pi before this?
I don't think so. I'll post my full code in the chat.
Yes, please.
Yes,
you can
please.
look at that.
I think that pi represents the variable. So the assignment for something.
That is correct. Yes, exactly. So pi is not defined by itself in Python. So, but the math.pi is actually the value of pi. So that's why we had to use math.pi in here. You could obviously you could say that pi is equal to math.pi, right? That could be a way of doing this, or you could say pi is equal to the number 3 point something something, right? So you can always assign that. So all right, we have the code from Shilpa, and we can try to see what's going on with this. Yeah. All right. Wow, I like the print statement that you have. Very informative. /n. That goes into the next line, right? Cosine of pi by 2 and math.cos pi by 2. So let's see. So it gives me an error. So essentially, you might have done something special in there, but there's always surprises in Python, how you're doing this and whatnot. But if I get this error immediately, what I would do is change your code and just put something like this, right? Yeah. So yeah, but maybe yeah, like I said, you might have assigned pi before or something like that. Ah, okay, there you go. So you are yes, that's another good thing probably to see. So this is a good way of also introducing something else. We would have possibly done this. So there is a way of importing specific things from this package, right? So um, if you do from math import pi, then it knows the definition of pi. So it is possibly using that. And I think if you also do from math import asterisk, so what that does is it imports all the functions that's there inside the math package. So that ways you can actually get rid of math.cos, math.pi, then you can directly use cos, pi, and whatnot. And this is a good statement to remember. And we will see that as we go forward and we use libraries that have like, that takes a lot of, lot of different, that has a lot of different functions defined in it. And also, in cases where we would like to use something over and over again, these kind of statements are really helpful. So in this way, you do not have to, keep on saying math.py or math.cos or things like that. So what is the difference between import math and from math import star? So when you're saying import math, you're just importing the library, right? You're not importing any specific function or the functions inside the library. So as a result, when you have to use a function inside that library, you have to use this dot and then explicitly select that function, right? So that is how we learned it. But when you use from math import star, and let's try and do this, right? So from math import star, so what it does is it essentially imports all the functions from this math library. And in that case, I should not have to use any of this math dot stuff. So you see, so now I have from math import star, then I could use the cosine function from this math library and the pi function from this math library, right? So if I would not have imported everything, right, if I would have only imported pi, then I would still need to use math.cos. So I can restart my runtime. Yeah, that way I clear everything from my memory. So previously I had imported everything. So now I'll not import everything. I'll just import pi. And let's see if our statement works now. So it'll give us an error saying that cos is not defined. So right. So then in this case, you could do from math import pi and cos, right? So in this case, it is importing both these functions, and then you'll get your results. And this math library has a lot of functions. It is, if you need everything, then you just use a asterisk, right? So that is like the a way to import all the functions.
Sir, I read the article somewhere that there would be some issues if we use that asterisk uh, for importing all the things. Is it correct?
So can you give me one reason why it could be not a good idea to import everything?
Sir, actually, I don't know that, but I read the article somewhere that there would be some issues if we import all at once. Just I'm
Right.
asking, is it correct or wrong?
It is correct. And I was I was trying to get some hints from you guys because um, you know um, yeah, so it is not a good practice, and the answer is it should be a little bit intuitive for you guys as well. But uh, remember, these packages are made independently by different people in the Python community, right? So when they're writing their packages, they don't really care what the other packages, they do, but they cannot make a due diligence of all the functions that are standard. So if you import everything from this package and it has a function called cosine, and let's say you imported another package numpy with everything inside numpy, and it also has a cosine function, and both the functions may not work in the same way, right? So then you have conflict. So that is one big reason why you should not import everything if you do not need everything. And the second being, it would also take longer time if you have big packages to import all the functions. Yeah, so you're right. Who was this? I think um, yeah, whoever it was. Sorry, I didn't catch your name, but you are right.
Thank you, sir.
What's your
I
name,
am
by the way?
Yashoda Ramakrishna, sir.
Okay, Yashoda. Yashoda is a good way to Yashoda Ramakrishnan. Is that your full name, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Good. Chime in there. Yep. For the
Thank you.
community.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Do we have uh, so
I have a question regarding the actual answer.
right?
or what you guys getting, that 6.12 to the negative 17. I was like, that's not what I got when I even put it into a calculator. So how is that coming out to that answer versus just the cosine of dividing pi by 2?
So when you're putting it in a calculator, what did you use? So did you put in pi by 2?
Yeah, if I just put into a calculator, I put the cosine of parentheses 3.14 divided by 2, I get
Yeah.
0.00079, etc.
Yep. So let's do an apples to apples comparison, right? So pi is not 3.14, right? It is much more than that, and you can see it. So if we do instead 3.14 divided by 2, like you had in your calculator, this is the answer that we are getting, right? So it depends on what you are putting in. So so the way this pi function is, or the way it is defined, it actually takes in much more decimals in its value. So pi is not exactly 3.14, right? Does that answer, Pablo?
Mm.
Good.
Sir, can we control the digits in the decimal places, that if we want only two decimals, can we do that?
Yes, you can. So there is a way to control uh, the number of digits. It's actually using the format statement. I think I have it somewhere in this example, in this notebook that you guys got. So the format statement actually gives you a control over how. So it's based on the concept of significant digits, right? So it actually helps you to control the number of digits that you want to use for your calculations. Yeah. And try Googling it as well, so you'll get your answer on that. All right, so with that, let's move on to the next one, unless you guys have any other question. So find the type of the following: classroom, 2.875, math.cos. So somebody wants to take a try at this one. Well, what is the type for classroom and how you would do that? Yes, I see somebody has posted their code. I'll copy that, right? And let's see if we can discuss through this. All right. Okay, the first one, print, and you guys got it right at the start. The type function helps you to get the type. So classroom, it's a string, 2.875, it's a float. Type of math. So let's see what this is. So here it says name math is not defined. Anybody have any guess why this is so? And how I can fix that? That's right.
You have not imported
Import.
that math, sir.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So once I import math, it should be able to tell us what the class is. So this is a module. So a library or a package, it's called a module. And let's now see math.cos, what the type is. So it's a built-in function or a method inside this particular module, right? So it's a function, and we will go into much more details about functions and modules and whatnot as we progress through this course. But we will actually write our own functions. I think that's possibly next week, where we'll define our own functions and we'll import them into the notebooks, right? So yeah, good job on this. The final one, make a loop to print the squares of the numbers up to 10. Start with for statement. Modify your loop such that the squares of the numbers are stored in a new list. Add an if statement to collect the squares of even numbers. So there are multiple parts of this. So the first part, I mean, if somebody has gotten all the parts, you're free to paste your code in here. We can discuss that. Or if somebody has gotten the first part, make a loop to print the squares of the numbers, we can look at that as well. So I have somebody who has already pasted their code. So let me copy that. Right. Okay, let's look at it line by line, right? So list 1 is equal to open and close square brackets. So what it does, any guesses on this? And these are some things which we didn't explicitly. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say you have a null or blank matrix, and you can then add more items to it if you don't know the exact size of your list.
Yes, exactly. So this is how you define an empty list. And I think somebody asked a question yesterday, how do you define an empty list? So this is your answer, right? So, and this is exactly, the reason also is exactly spot on, right? So if you do not know what your exact size of the list would be, you can just create an empty list. And, this is where this this kind of a programming language is different than a low level programming language like a C or a C++, right? Because in there you would have to define, pre-allocate the memory. Here you do not need to explicitly do that, although you could. All right, so that's how you define an empty list. Now let's look at the last 3 lines of this. All right, so for n in range 1 to 11. So that was a hint that was given to you, right? So I see that there are some white spaces in here. I don't think it really would complain about this as long as you have them properly indented. But I'll quickly tell you a shortcut which actually is helpful in keeping your codes well indented. So if you select the part of the code here, like the 3 lines that I have, and you select, you press on your keyboard Shift and the third bracket open sign, which is there on the keyboard. Oh, sorry, my bad. It's a control and that particular sign. So let me actually write that as a comment. For indentation, use either control plus, oh, sorry, this particular sign, or control plus this particular sign on your keyboard. Yeah, so you saw that we could get it into the proper indentation level. So now, I have this as indented into the right indentation for n in range 1 to 11. Now, remember in the for statement, we need to get white spaces, right? So if I just put it in the same line and press enter, it actually gives you the white space by itself, right? All right. So this first line, there is another thing which we need to discuss. So this particular function range, which is a built-in function inside Python, it actually gives you the values with an increment of 1. So we can actually test this in here. So let's put it as a test. Let's hope that it gives us the values. So it's not returning any value, but it would I think it does what it is supposed to do. So let's actually try this. So essentially this range function is actually giving you the values 1, 2, 3, 4 up till 11. All right, so that is the first part. Then the second line, if the value n in this range, so it is giving you one value at a time, you do use the modulo operator to check whether it's divisible by 2 or not. If it is equal to 0, and this is a Boolean variable, right? Remember, so it is going to give either true or false. If this is 0, then again there is a white space that we need with the if statement, right? So this empty list, you append to this list this particular number and its square, right? So this is a very efficient way of writing the code. You could have broken this up into much more lines, right? But this is a good efficient way of writing code. We will run this and we will see what it that we get out of list one. So why is it suppressing the outputs? Okay. Something is not correct. I think, yeah, I have to reconnect. So the runtime is actually creating some problems. But that's okay. I mean, we can create a new notebook, right? We don't need to rely on this. This is possibly because Michael and I are sharing the same notebook. We can go in here. We can do this, right? So now it's connecting to a new machine, and now it is working, right? So let's see if we get the list one outputs in here. Yeah, so we did get that, right? So we didn't need this print statement. And another, quick tip, what I did was whenever I have complicated loops and everything, to see where there are different ways of using, code breaks and stuffs like that. You can do fancy stuffs to check your code, but if you are beginning to, to wonder what is going wrong, where is your code not working, a print statement is always a good way to start, right? So if you are not sure whether this for loop is working or not, you could easily put a print and say like testing my for loop, right? So, and then it'll say, okay, this is how many times the for loop was executed, right? So this loop is working. Then you could put another print statement inside your if loop as well to just check. All right, so let me look at the chat window and see if people have questions.
Sir, in the if statement, you have used that modular statement.
Mm-hmm.
And then next, list one dot append, and you have used the two asterisk. Then what is the need of the two? As we have the two asterisk means that is the power of a number.
That's right. So the question was framed such that, you first check whether a number is even or not, right? So if we do not, let's actually, you know what? Let me take your suggestion and remove this if statement, right? And see what it does. Okay, so it executed fine. There's no problem. But the numbers that you're getting are not just the squares of the even number, but you're also getting it for the odd numbers as well, right? So what the question was asking was,
Sir,
you can.
actually, my question is that here in list one dot append, you have used that double asterisk after n. So that means that is the power of 2. Then what is the need of using the 2 even after using the double asterisk?
So double asterisk just tells you that, it is a power of something. So for this question, remember the question was framed such that, you have to first check whether a number is even or not, and then you have to collect the squares of even numbers, right? So the double asterisk is telling you it's power of something, and the 2 is actually saying that it's a square. Does that answer your question?
Sir, I think that in the quiz that in the fifth question that you have used the double asterisk, but not 2.
Okay, so let's try that, right? So let's do
Yeah,
n
that's
double
giving
asterisk.
error, sir.
Yep, exactly. So you can only put n square using using double asterisk, but with 2, right? So if you needed a cube root, you would put a 3. So this is how power is defined in this case. Or you could use the math operator, right? So you could math library. So you could do the math.pow and put n comma 2. That would also work.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, sure. So let's see what other questions we have.
So, hey Vishal, I just posted my code there, and I noticed that I didn't have to initialize the list. I can just go ahead and start on the fly a list and use insert, and that seems to work. Is that a good practice?
So let me try and find your code so that I know exactly
Here,
what.
Shall I post it again? Here you go.
No, I think I found it. Let me try to copy it and bring it over. All right. So I hope this is the code, right? That you mentioned? Okay.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's see. So you have started a indexer counter, right, with 0, and then you're doing a for loop, and then you're checking whether it's an even or not, and then you're putting it inside even squares dot insert. Okay, that's interesting. So let's see what list dot insert does versus list dot append.
I think for append you have to initialize. I don't know. I'm thinking.
So yeah, so let's find out, right? We're all learning here. So insert object before a particular index, right? So this is a slightly different thing than doing an append, right? So appending is inserting an object after a particular, like at the end of the list, right? I think it would be a slightly different output for you. Let's actually see if it what it prints out. Okay, so first of all, it doesn't like that it's not defined, right? So that actually is something that, yeah, go ahead.
How come? I mean, on my screen, I just ran it and it worked fine.
Yeah, so I think what happened was you have this first line which is commented out right now, right?
Yes.
So maybe you had executed the cell which
Yes, the first
actually,
time.
yeah, which actually defined. So once you have defined a variable, it's there in the memory, right? So although in this particular case you haven't defined it, but it's actually defined because you run the code before. So I'll encourage you to do something. So instead of even squares, just change the variable name to even squares new, let's say, and try and run this code. I'm sure you'll get this error if you do not initialize it. And also another thing is, let's just stick with this code, and let's yeah, so we initialized even squares, and I still am curious what the result for this would be, right? So let's run this. You have a print statement which prints everything fine, but we want to see what the list has inside it, right? So let's see what the list has. Even squares. So it actually did what the events.append would do, right? So in this case, it did work. But I think the way I was thinking about this actually, it's every programmer has its own mind. So that is why well, it's a very, very common thing in the computer science fraternity. When it's much easier to write your own code than to work with somebody else's code. And this is exactly the reason why, because the way you are thinking and way I am thinking might be slightly different. There's no one right answer to it. So actually, in this case, there are two possible answers that we already found out, right? So yeah, I think there's that particular.
Sir, I have a block of code with the issue of double asterisk. Can you say what is happening in the code? Just I am going to post the code in the comment section.
Definitely. Let me try and take a look. And before that, I'm just scrolling through the different answers. I think most of you have got it pretty good. Yeah, so I think the for and the if statements, you guys have kind of understood what the error is. So this is again Yashoda Ramakrishna. I think you have posted a question, but I think you are asking that again. So I'll select all of them and click Control Star. Okay, it's possible to do it without creating an empty list before. So it's not possible to create to do this without an empty list. All right. Let's see. We have answered all of this.
Sir, actually we have an issue while using double asterisk in if statement, but just now I have posted a block of code, but it is fine there.
Okay, so let me go through the thing. So you're saying that you have a problem with using double asterisks in the if statement.
Yes, sir.
So can you be more specific on this?
Actually, following your code, just so here that above that code.
This one?
Above that, sir.
Above this, yes.
Yes, sir. There you have that list one dot append n double asterisk and 2. So if we are not using the 2, then it is giving the error. But the code just I have posted is also contains the double asterisk, but that is not giving the error.
Okay, I see.
What
Let me
would be the
copy your
reason?
code. Yeah, let's see. Now I understand the question, I think. All right, so a equal to 33, a double asterisk plus 10 times a minus 23. It's an interesting one. Let's see. So what is this double asterisk doing, right? So that's the question possibly. So
yes, sir.
Let's try to just run it without anything else, right? So that we understand what it is doing. So a double asterisk by itself is giving you a syntax error, right? So that's in there. So okay, fine. So let's see if the rest of the code is actually doing something different. So let's eliminate. Sorry. So let's see if it does something here. Still a problem. Okay. Let's bring in the other part plus 10, right? So yeah, so now it is giving me some value, but it's not doing what we are trying to get out of this, right? So it's, I don't know what it's doing, to be honest, but it's definitely not taking the square of 33 and adding 10
Sir,
to it.
let us use a small number instead of 10 there.
No, actually, yes, I just googled the star operator does completely different things. I just posted what I found on Google right there on the chat window. If you're using it just by itself, it's not a math operator.
Yep, that's a good one. Thank you. Yeah, so and we can try, right? So we can, you're saying, so let's actually start with 3, right? Like we know what this value should be, right? So it's not doing something which is taking the
Okay,
square of
sir.
3.
I have understood something that
Yes.
as you have used the double asterisk and 2, and I think that here we are that plus is indicating the positive sign of that 1. As you have used the 2 there.
Ah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, exactly. Yep. So I think so you're saying this should give us 9, is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. So yeah, exactly. So there you go. So what it was, so let's go back to your code, right? So now we have understood what's happening in here. Now let's share it with everybody else. And this is the fun part of coding. So what it was doing is it's taking 33 to the power 33 to the power 10, and it was doing multiplied it by 3 minus 23. So yeah. So yeah, so you could and I mean, technically it is doing what it's supposed to do, right? So you could, instead of taking square, you could take a square root, right? In that case, it would be -2. So yep, good one. Thank you for sharing this. Every day I learn something new. Yeah.
So this is a good time to mention the parenthesis, how important it is, right? We would never catch a bug like this that easily.
Yes.
If we were to code it, yeah.
That is right. That is exactly right. But you saw how I debugged it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't have any idea of what it was doing, but we did it together, and this is how we do it. Like, and I mean, just break it down into smaller things. Think about things that you know and understand, and that's where you know you could find a possible answer. And of course, you have Google and a strong community of Python coders around. So if you do not find an answer, if you have found a very tricky question, try posting that into Stack Overflow. You can get a lot of fame overnight if you have, you know, posted a very new question, and you'll see a lot of people trying to brainstorm and give you the most efficient answer to things. So yeah, I encourage you to do that. All right. I think that kind of sums it up for this part, right? So um, we started off very simple, but you can already see that we are getting into pretty complicated. We have like for loop with if statements, with prints, with lists. That's you know, adding stuffs in there. Yeah, so I guess I'll stop here, or else I'll start blabbering right now. I'll hand it over to Michael.
Thank you so much, Vishal. I think this is another fun second day of class, and there's a lot of active participation. So if Silva is online, I will let her talk to us about how we're going to be collaborating during this course. I think she opened the Slack channel and sent it out to everybody. So Silva, if you're there, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the means of collaboration and how they will be submitting their projects.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you guys again. I actually created a Slack channel. I've added a lot of us in there. If you don't get an invite from me, please let me know, where you guys can collaborate and talk to the mentors if you have issues or any problem with your code or anything you're working on. Then I'm also creating like a Google Classroom where you could submit your project, or if there's any assignments that needs to be submitted. We'll see. We'll shuffle between the two. If Slack works better for us, we might actually stay with Slack. But right now, sorry if you have a lot of invites coming in. One will come from Slack for communication and all that. Then Google Classroom to submit the project and the assignments. Yes.
Yeah, because I want to encourage this collaboration and this just, interaction with all the participants. So I think this Slack channel will be helpful, where you can pose questions, where you have response from some of the intermediate folks and the advanced, and you also have response from our mentors that are going to be in the Slack channel as well. So let's keep the communication and the course fun and exciting. And thanks a lot, Vishal, for walking us through day 2. I think this has been, I've learned a lot myself.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I've learned as well. Like I say, every time I learn something new. And yeah, this was fun. I hope it was fun for others as well.
So I think this wraps up today's class or discussion. If you have not received any particular correspondence, maybe the video, so we're going to be sending the video on YouTube. We tried a few other means that, a lot of people were not able to get to it. So I think the YouTube work better for all. So we're going to be sending that link, and also any of the course material we would also be sending as well. And let me know if you don't have any of this, and we'll forward it to you. Just send me an email on mahiwari@itexperience.com. I'll put my email on the chat box here. With that, we're going to wrap it up for today. Thanks everybody for attending again. Have a good rest of your day.
And see you guys next week.
Yeah, thanks everyone. See you guys next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.